Hey, so in today's video I want to show you how to make sense and improve Aptly scratch test quickly for any of your tricky shoulder pain patients or patients who are getting pain in functional tasks. So as always, don't forget to subscribe below. We've got plenty of content that helps you make sense of the theory and get real world results with real people. And if you don't know me, my name is Dave O'Sullivan. I've been very fortunate to work with numerous professional sports teams and international sports teams also, and everything we teach, it's to help you take this information and become the go-to physio in your town. So why do we want to use the Aptly scratch test? So we want to use the Aptly scratch test to measure shoulder range of motion quickly and easily in the clinic. It's a real nice test, and functionally it's a test that's going to challenge a lot of tissues to lengthen, to shorten in positions that people have to do on a day-to-day basis, such as taking off their t-shirt, a female undoing their bra strap, whatever it is. We're putting the shoulder in a combination of positions, and if we can improve this test, then you're going to improve a lot of functional tasks that a patient can do. So it's well worth assessing in the clinic, and also, of course, improving and getting long-lasting changes. So as I said here, it can give a lot of clues about where to start with our hands-on treatment so that you can work smarter, not harder. Okay, so in executing the test, let's just skip over to the mentorship modules. I'll just give you a quick demo of this. Okay, so again, the key thing here is we want to think about what tissues are shortening, what tissues are lengthening. Okay, so what I'm saying here, the mentorship is basically, you could see at this point here, the long-headed triceps is going to really need to lengthen. Okay, so again, the long-headed triceps, that attaches to the scap here. So again, we can see where it's attaching. So that's going to be able to have a big influence on the ability to do this test. Okay, so again, if the patient is struggling to do this test, maybe you want to focus more on your hands-on treatment on the long-headed triceps first and foremost. Okay, and then you could start to either strengthen or reject your working hypothesis. So that's a tissue that I would definitely be looking at here. And then on the other bit of the Aptly's test, okay, we're going to have a look at the other test. Okay, so again, anybody that needs to undo a bra strap or something like that, this is going to be a very important one. Now again, here we want to consider some tissues. Now one of the big tissues that is often forgotten, from my experience of working with well over 600 therapists now in the mentorship, is as we come to here, so as we extend, the long-headed biceps is going to need to lengthen here. Okay, and then this is where it gets really, really interesting. Okay, so the long-headed biceps is going to have to lengthen in the transverse plane as you bring your hand behind your back. So that point there, if your patient's really struggling here or they're having a pain experience, this is where we might want to consider actually desensitizing those tissues with hands-on treatment or whatever you use, stretching if you don't use hands-on, whatever it is. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is that you know what tissues you're trying to influence and you get the result you want. So at this point here, we're thinking, okay, long head of biceps, might want to do some soft tissue work around there. And then if this is where the restriction happens, then, so if they're okay up to here and then they start to get their symptoms here, or they start to struggle at this point, this is where we're thinking, okay, now distal triceps is going to need to lengthen. Okay, so again, up here we're thinking long-headed triceps, down here we're thinking long-head of biceps, and then depending on the part of the motion that the patient gets issues with, then we might start to think about the long head of triceps. Okay, so again, very, very simple approach here. We don't have to make this more complicated than it is. Obviously, the pain, the human body, is a very complex interaction. We still don't know fully all about it, but what we can do is just keep this simple so that we can get results. So I hope this is making sense. If this is making sense so far, just pop a yes in the comments. And then also let me know your biggest takeaways so far that you've got from this video. And that really helps me make sure that I'm teaching this right and that you are getting information that can help you take this, put it into the real world, see results with your patients, and ultimately become that go-to therapist. So again, as I always teach in the mentorship program, always retest your KPIs afterwards. Okay, so again, if you're going to do some hands-on treatment, you always need to go and follow this format of test, intervene, retest again. So then at least you know which tissues are making the biggest difference. So then we can build a graded exposure program to show the nervous system that it's okay to tolerate load through these tissues so that we can keep that range of motion. Because again, the last thing we want to do here is we want to just basically get short-term results. Okay, everything we do, we want to create long-lasting changes that's meaningful for your patient. And as always, the range of motion of the shoulder, that's always the starting point for us with my step-by-step system. That helps you have confidence and clarity to take a patient and bridge the gap from the low level rehab to the high level rehab. So we always start with the range of motion. Let's restore that range of motion. But just because you've restored that range of motion now doesn't mean it's safe for your patient to return to the high level activities. We have to bridge that gap and get that graded exposure from the clinic room up into more meaningful activities for that patient, okay? And our approach to that is simple. We're going to spend 80% of our time looking at the tissues that we are thinking are maybe contributing to this pain experience. So, for example, in this scenario, if your patient has shoulder pain with one of these movements, we spend 80% of our time desensitizing these tissues, giving them a low tolerance, and we would spend 20% of our time on the actual shoulder itself, okay? So you can see here that all these tissues, such as the triceps, the biceps, they're going to have a big role to play in actually achieving this range of motion. So if they're not doing their job, you might feel, and from my experience, a lot of patients will actually feel symptoms in the shoulder. Whereas when we focus on the 80%, very often the shoulder symptoms will settle very, very quickly. Okay, so if you'd like more information on that, head over to www.thegotofysio.com/free. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 14 days free access to my shoulder return to play course. So that will help you bridge the gap. This is the starting point. But as I said, you are not going to be judged on if you can improve a patient's Aptly scratch test. You're going to be judged on the ability to make meaningful, long-lasting impacts on that patient's life. And for that, we need to bridge the gap from where they are now to where they want to get there. So if you head over to that, I will give you 14 days free access to my upper limb return to play course. You can have the course for 14 days. You can go through it for free. There's a manual, there's a 53-page manual. I'll give you all my top exercises of how exactly we bridge the gap. I've got all the literature here for you to read as well if you want to. We could show you how we can build that gap so to help you ultimately become that go-to therapist. Okay, so head over to www.thegotofysio.com/free. We'll make sure I'll get access to that course for you now. Okay, so thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next video.